The year was 2479. Earth had become a mystery to the galaxy. For more than 100 years, the Galactic Union had tried to reach it. They sent signals, envoys, and offers of peace. Earth never answered. Not once. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth seemed dead. But the Union knew better. Their long-range scanners showed life. Cities still lit up at night. Oceans still moved. Machines still worked. Earth was alive. Yet it chose silence. Chancellor Vorik stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Sovereign Flame. It hovered just beyond Earth's atmosphere, surrounded by thousands of Union warships. Their dark metal hulls reflected the light of Earth's sun. From space, the fleet looked like a black wall covering the sky. Vorik was tall and thin, his skin a pale gray. His long fingers tapped the rail in front of him as he stared at the blue planet below. His council stood behind him, silent and tense. He had tried everything. For years, he had sent offers of peace. He had promised Earth a seat on the Union High Council. He had sent ships filled with gifts, technology, medicine, energy sources. All were ignored. Earth had never sent a reply. Not a single word. But today was different. Today he had come himself. This was the final move. Either Earth would join the Union today, or the Union would take Earth by force. Vorik hated the idea of war, but the Council had made it clear. He could not let Earth remain free. If he did, other worlds might follow Earth's example. Silence could spread like a disease, shaking the Union's control over the galaxy. Vorik took a deep breath. His voice filled the command deck. "Open the channel," he ordered. The crew obeyed. A light flashed, signaling that Earth could hear him. The Union's final message was about to be sent. Vorik stepped forward and spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words. "This is Chancellor Vorik of the Galactic Union. We come in peace. We have waited long enough for your answer. We ask you again, join us. Share your knowledge. Share your strength. Share your future with us. We offer friendship. We offer unity. We offer peace." He paused. His voice grew soft, almost like a whisper. "I beg you, do not make us your enemy." Silence. He waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. Not a single word. Not a single signal. Earth, once again, answered with silence. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The tension in the room grew heavy. Vorik turned to his officers. "Hold position," he said. "We wait." The fleet held its place, casting a long shadow over Earth. Down below, in cities and towns, people looked up at the sky. Some stood in fear, others in quiet wonder. The ships were visible from the ground like dark clouds, unmoving, watching. The world held its breath. Far below the waiting fleet, inside a hidden fortress deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's Defense Command remained silent. Thick steel walls sealed it from the world above. It was the most secure place on the planet. No signal came in. No signal went out. At the center of the fortress stood Marcus Reed. Marcus was a tall man in his late 40s, his hair turning gray at the edges. His face was sharp, like it had been carved from stone. His uniform was plain black, marked only by the small silver badge of Earth's Defense Commander. He stood in front of a large glass screen that showed the Union fleet in Earth's orbit. The screen flickered. Chancellor Vorik's message replayed again. Marcus stood still, watching it for the 10th time. He knew every word by heart. He had listened carefully to the tone, the choice of words, the desperation in the Chancellor's voice. Behind Marcus, his officers gathered. They stood in a wide circle, whispering among themselves. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. All of them were waiting for Marcus to speak. One of them finally stepped forward. It was General Clark, Marcus's second-in-command. His face was tense. "Sir, we can't ignore this," Clark said, breaking the silence. "They're not leaving. The people are watching. The world is scared." Marcus said nothing. His cold eyes stayed on the screen. Clark moved closer. "We have weapons ready. We have the codes. Just give a word, Commander. We can strike first. We can drive them back." Still, Marcus didn't speak. Another officer, Captain Rivera, spoke up. Her voice was sharp and urgent. "Sir, they're waiting for a reply. Maybe we don't have to fight. Maybe we can talk. It's not weakness to speak. It's—" Marcus raised one hand slowly. The room went silent. He turned around and faced them all. He looked at each officer, one by one. His voice was low, steady, like steel cutting through air. "We wait," Marcus said. His officers shifted uncomfortably. "Wait for what?" Rivera asked, her voice cracking with frustration. "They'll fire on us. They'll burn our cities." Marcus walked toward the center of the room. He tapped a button on the table, bringing up a display of Earth's defense network. Thousands of defense satellites, drones, and hidden platforms showed up on the screen. They were in position, ready, all of them silent. He pointed at the screen. "We spent a century building this wall," he said. "Not with words, not with fear, but with silence." Clark shook his head. "What if silence is the mistake? What if this is the time to speak?" Marcus's face didn't change. His voice stayed calm. "Silence is our weapon. Silence makes them afraid. They do not fear our words. They fear what they do not hear. They fear what they do not see." He turned his back on them again and faced the screen showing the fleet. His hands rested behind his back. "We wait," he repeated. Hours passed. No one dared to break the silence again. Above them, the Union fleet stayed in place, watching, waiting. In every city on Earth, people gathered outside, looking up at the sky. They waited for news. They waited for a signal. No signal came. The silence stretched through the night. High above Earth, on the command deck of the Sovereign Flame, Chancellor Vorik stood in silence. His long fingers gripped the edge of the observation rail. His dark eyes stared down at the quiet blue planet. It had been 2 full days since he sent his message. 2 full days of waiting. 2 full days of silence. Behind him, the council of high-ranking Union officers stood restless. Their robes shifted as they moved, whispering among themselves. One of them, Admiral Karras, a thick-bodied creature with red-scaled skin, stepped forward. His voice was low but firm. "Chancellor, this waiting makes us weak. The galaxy is watching. They see a Union fleet begging for an answer that will never come." The other council members nodded in agreement. Vorik lowered his head. He had known this moment would come. The council had waited long enough. Soon, they would demand action. He could hear the frustration in their voices. He could feel it growing. Another voice, softer but sharper, spoke from behind. It was Minister Valen, a tall, thin alien with glowing green eyes. "We must attack, Chancellor. Show them who holds power. One swift strike will silence their silence." Vorik turned to face them all. His face was tired, but his voice remained steady. "We are not murderers," Vorik said. "We did not build the Union on blood. We build it on unity, on peace. Earth must see that." The council stood still, unsure how to respond. Vorik stepped toward the center of the command deck. He took a deep breath. His next decision would be his last attempt to avoid war. "Open a direct channel," he ordered. "Make sure it reaches their defense commander. I will speak to him alone." The crew obeyed. A light flashed on the console. The channel was open again. Earth could hear him. Vorik leaned toward the screen. His voice lowered, filled with honest desperation. "Commander Marcus Reed, I know you hear me. I know you watch. I beg you, listen now." He paused, choosing his words with care. "We do not come to conquer. We come to share. The Union offers you everything. Technology, medicine, energy, knowledge. We offer you a seat among the stars. You will not kneel. You will stand beside us as equals." Vorik's voice cracked slightly. His pride was gone now. All that remained was hope. "I'm asking as a leader, but also as a man. Do not force me to bring war to your world. I do not want your blood on my hands." He leaned back. His hands trembled slightly. He waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10. The channel remained open. No voice answered. No signal came. The screen stayed empty. Vorik closed his eyes. He knew what this silence meant. Earth had heard every word. Earth had made its choice. He turned back to the council. His face had changed. The light in his eyes had dimmed. "They will not speak," he said quietly. "They have no intention to join us." Admiral Karras stepped forward. His voice was cold. "Then we must act, Chancellor, before the galaxy loses faith in us." Vorik nodded slowly. He felt the weight of failure on his shoulders. He looked one last time at the blue planet. "Prepare the fleet," he whispered. The fleet began to move into attack formation. Warships shifted into place like a wall of blades ready to strike. Inside Earth's Defense Command, Marcus Reed watched the same thing unfold on his screen. He said nothing. He stood as still as stone. He knew the storm was coming. The tension inside Earth's Defense Command felt heavier than ever. The lights were dim. The air felt tight. Every screen in the control room showed the same thing. Thousands of Union warships closing in above Earth. Their slow, steady movements were like dark waves rolling toward a shore. Marcus Reed stood in the center of it all, silent as ever. His face showed no fear, no anger, no doubt. He stood with his hands behind his back, watching. His officers watched him just as closely. General Clark couldn't hold back any longer. He slammed his hand on the console. "Commander, this is madness." Clark shouted. "We can't just stand here and let them attack. We need to move now. We have his systems ready. We have the power to hit them first." Marcus didn't turn around. His eyes stayed on the screen. Captain Rivera spoke next, her voice tight with fear. "We have families down here. Cities full of people. They're counting on us. We have the weapons, Commander. Why won't you use them?" Marcus finally turned to face them. His voice was low, but it cut through the noise. "Because they're waiting for us to speak first," Marcus said. His words hung in the air like smoke. He walked toward the table in the center of the room. With one touch, he brought up Earth's full defense network on a large display. Thousands of defense satellites, drones, and hidden orbital platforms blinked into view. They were cloaked, invisible to the enemy, but fully armed. The officers stared at the map, seeing the full power of Earth's hidden wall for the first time. "This is what they fear," Marcus said. "Not our words, not our weapons, but the fact that we say nothing." He pointed to the fleet on the screen. "Out there, Vorik is desperate. He's not showing strength. He's showing fear. Every minute we stay silent, he grows weaker. He second-guesses himself. He doubts his power. That doubt will crush him faster than any weapon we fire." General Clark shook his head. "What if you're wrong?" Clark asked. "What if they don't back down? What if they attack anyway?" Marcus stared at him. His face stayed calm. "Then we'll be ready," Marcus said. He turned back to the officers. "Begin final system checks. Prepare all stations. But hold your fire until I give the order. We strike only if they make the first move. Until then, we stay silent." The officers didn't argue again. They knew Marcus had made his choice. Whether they agreed or not no longer mattered. One by one, they turned to their stations and began working in silence. Above them, the Union fleet locked its weapons on Earth. The warships spread out like claws ready to close. Chancellor Vorik stood on the command deck of the Sovereign Flame, staring down at the blue planet with heavy eyes. His hands trembled behind his back. He knew the next step. His council watched him, waiting for the command they had demanded for days. Vorik lowered his head. His voice broke the silence. "Power all weapons. Prepare to strike." Lights on every Union warship turned blood red. Energy began to build. The fleet moved closer. On Earth, sirens remained silent. Streets were empty. The people of Earth watched the dark clouds in the sky. They waited without knowing what would happen next. In the control room, Marcus stood still, watching every move. His jaw tightened, but he gave no signal. He spoke no words. His silence held the world together for one more moment. Chancellor Vorik stood on the edge of failure. He could feel it. He could taste it. Silence had swallowed every offer, every word, every plea. He had bowed lower than any chancellor before him. And still, Earth said nothing. His pride was gone. His fear had grown. And now, only one path remained. He turned to Admiral Karras. His voice was flat, empty of hope. "Begin final countdown." Admiral Karras nodded without emotion. The crew moved like machines, activating the fleet's weapons. The deck lights turned blood red. Warning sirens echoed through the Sovereign Flame. On every Union warship, weapon bays slid open. Energy cores began to charge. A sharp hum filled the air. It grew louder, shaking the walls of the massive ship. Minister Valen stepped beside Vorik. His voice was cold, without sympathy. "Once we strike, Chancellor, there is no going back." Vorik nodded slowly. "I know." He looked down one last time at Earth. In the face of death, Earth remained silent. No cries for peace. No threats of war. No sign of fear. The waiting had ended. The sky above Earth was about to burn. Inside Earth's Defense Command, alarms flashed across the screens. The officers watched the fleet moving into final attack formation. Energy readings spiked. The Union was seconds away from launching a full strike. General Clark stood. His face had turned pale. "Commander, they're powering up all weapons," Clark said, his voice shaking. "We can't wait any longer." Captain Rivera turned, her hands clenched. "We have to strike first," she shouted. "We can still stop them." Marcus Reed stood silent. His eyes locked on the screen. His heart pounded in his chest, but his face showed nothing. He knew this moment would come. He had prepared for it his entire life. He walked to the center console and placed his hand on the command pad. The room fell dead silent as the officers watched. Marcus looked at the map of Earth's defense grid. Thousands of cloaked satellites and drones floated high above Earth, hidden in the dark. Their weapons were armed. Their systems waited for one command. The Union didn't know they were there. They couldn't see them, couldn't scan them. Earth's true power had been hidden for decades, waiting in the shadows. Marcus stared at the flashing red lights, showing the Union fleet's growing energy build up. He could hear his officers breathing behind him, waiting for his next move. He pressed one button. The cloaked satellites powered up in silence. No light, no sound, no warning. Earth's wall of defense surrounded the fleet without firing a single shot. Marcus didn't speak. He didn't explain. He simply stood still and watched. Above Earth, Vorik's ship shook as energy reached its final charge. The fleet's cannons glowed bright, ready to fire. Vorik raised his hand, preparing to give the final order. Suddenly, alarms exploded across the command deck. The crew froze. Red lights turned white. Screens flashed warnings in every language. Admiral Karras looked up in shock. "Chancellor, we're surrounded." Vorik's face twisted in confusion. "What?" Karras slammed his fist on the console. Thousands of armed platforms above us, behind us, everywhere. The fleet's sensors had finally detected Earth's defense network. Hidden weapons had them locked in place. One move, one shot, and the Union's fleet would be torn apart. Vorik's hands began to tremble. How long have they been there?" Karras swallowed hard. "They've been there the whole time." The weight of it hit Vorik like a hammer. The silence, the waiting, the fear. Earth had never been afraid. It had never been weak. It had been in control all along. On the command deck of the Sovereign Flame, all eyes turned to Vorik. He had only seconds to choose. Fire and risk total destruction, or surrender and face the shame. The Chancellor of the Galactic Union stood frozen. Down on Earth, Marcus Reed watched him through the screen. His finger hovered over the final command button. He leaned forward, knowing the time had come. But still, he did not speak. He waited one more moment, letting silence fill the air like a blade pressing against the Union's throat. The next move was not his to make. The Sovereign Flame was dead silent. Every member of the crew stood frozen in shock. The sensors showed the full truth. Earth had them trapped. Thousands of defense platforms had surrounded the entire Union fleet. No one had seen them coming. No one had guessed they were there. No one had prepared for this. Chancellor Vorik's mouth felt dry. His throat tightened. He could barely breathe. He had brought the greatest fleet in the galaxy to Earth's doorstep. He had tried to speak. He had begged. He had threatened. He had waited. And all the while, Earth had watched. Quiet, patient, ready. Admiral Karras turned toward him again. His voice was low, like a man who already knew the answer. "Chancellor, your orders?" Vorik's hand shook. He stared at the planet below. If he fired, his fleet would die. He knew it. The sensors showed the power Earth had hidden. They could wipe him out in seconds. But if he turned back, if he surrendered now, his rule would never recover. He stood frozen between pride and fear. Then something happened. The screen in front of him blinked. A signal was coming through. For the first time since they had arrived, Earth was sending a message. Everyone on the command deck stared at the screen. No one moved. No one breathed. The message played. One word. One voice. A voice they all knew. It was Marcus Reed. His voice was clear, cold, sharp as a blade. Leave. That was it. No long speech. No threats. No promises. Just one word. Leave. Vorik felt his heart sink. The message ended. The screen went dark again. Earth's silence returned, but it felt heavier now. More dangerous. Minister Valen's voice broke the silence on the deck. They gave us a way out. Admiral Karras looked down at his console. His hands were shaking. If we don't leave now, none of US will. Vorik closed his eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. His pride burned like a wound inside him. The Union had never been refused like this before. But he knew the truth. This was over. He lowered his head. His voice came out as a whisper. Stand down. Karras hesitated. Chancellor. Vorik spoke again, louder this time. Stand down and pull the fleet back. The command deck came to life. Crews rushed to shut down weapons. Engines powered up. The great wall of ships began to turn away from Earth. From space, the people of Earth watched as the dark clouds in their sky began to move. The Union fleet, once locked in place, slowly pulled back. One ship at a time, they turned away and left orbit. Marcus Reed stood in the control room, watching every ship retreat. He said nothing. He gave no command to follow. He didn't need to. He turned to his officers, his face unreadable. Power down the grid, Marcus said quietly. General Clark looked at him with disbelief. That's it, Clark asked. Marcus nodded once. That's it. Captain Rivera let out a long breath she had been holding. No celebración. No cheers. Just the sound of systems powering down. Above Earth, the Sovereign Flame was the last ship to turn. Chancellor Vorik stood at the window, staring down at the planet one final time. He had come here hoping to claim victory. He left knowing he had lost without a single shot fired. As the last ship vanished into deep space, Earth's sky was empty again. The fleet was gone. Earth had won with just one word. The sky was clear. The ships were gone. For the first time in days, Earth's skies looked normal again. The dark shadow of the Galactic Union had left without firing a shot. But the world below did not cheer. The people did not rush into the streets. They stood in silence, staring at the sky, unsure if they had truly been spared. Across cities, towns, and villages, people looked to their leaders, their news screens, their governments, waiting for someone to explain what had just happened. But no answers came. Earth remained silent. Inside Earth's Defense Command, the officers stood quietly at their stations. The defense systems had been powered down. The red lights had faded. The sirens had stopped. Only Marcus Reed stood in the center of the room, as still as ever. General Clark broke the silence first. He stepped forward, his face pale and tired. They're really gone, he whispered, as if trying to believe it himself. Captain Rivera spoke next, her voice low and full of doubt. Is it over, sir? She asked. Is it really over? Marcus turned toward them. He looked at every officer, every soldier, every face in the room. His voice came out steady and cold, but there was something heavy behind it, something final. It's never over, Marcus said. The officers stayed silent, not knowing what to say. Marcus turned back to the screen. He watched the stars for a long moment. Then, without another word, he powered down the last screen. He removed the command badge from his chest and set it on the table. The small silver emblem shined under the dim lights. He stood there for a moment, staring at it. Then he turned and walked toward the heavy doors. The officers stepped aside, making a path for him. None dared to speak. None dared to stop him. Marcus left the command room without looking back. The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. Far beyond Earth, deep in the void of space, the Galactic Union's fleet drifted in silence. Inside the Sovereign Flame, Chancellor Vorik sat alone in his private chamber. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at the dark window. He could still hear Marcus's voice in his head. One word, one command, leave. Vorik knew what this meant for the Union. Whispers of Earth's defiance would spread to every world. Other planets would wonder how a single, silent world had forced the Union to retreat. They would ask questions. They would doubt the Union's power. The damage had already begun. Vorik lowered his head into his hands. He knew his rule had changed forever. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The people never knew how close they had come to destruction. No news broadcast revealed the hidden defense grid. No leader made a public statement. And Marcus Reed was never seen again. Earth returned to what it had always been, silent, closed, watching. And across the galaxy, silence became the loudest sound of all. Worlds whispered about Earth. Leaders feared it. The Union remembered it. One word had defeated an empire. And so, Earth waited again in silence.